This is food vlog number 1, Italian chicken casserole. So I made this dish as a dinner for my family, and basically what it is in short is it's a whole bunch of hand fried chicken thighs floating around in or I guess stewed in this kind of really thin brothy like substance with a bunch of fried vegetables. As you just saw in these pictures before, there's about, I'd say, 20 chicken breasts that went into this. The recipe called for 16 total because I doubled the recipe, and I had about 20 medium-sized ones, so I figured that would be enough. First of all, I did my prep work. So initially, I had to fry up the whole bunch of chicken thighs without any fat in a skillet on high heat. So I basically did that until all the skins were golden brown. I had to transfer them into either the Dutch oven or the big kind of stock pot that I was using because again, like I said, I did double the recipe. So I was actually making 2 of these at once. It was kind of an undertaking, but I did manage it. And then after that, after I had fried up all of the thighs, I had to do the prep work for the vegetables. So I cut up a whole bunch of onions. I think this footage shows me cutting up a whole bunch of peppers and preparing the garlic, peeling it and everything. So I can basically fry that stuff over the stove, which is the next step. So this step basically involves I'm putting the garlic into this press that kind of like minces it by hand, right? So there's like this thing that pushes down on it and kind of crushes it into the pan, and I kind of wipe off the residue on the side there and get the rest of kind of the husk of the garlic out. But I use something called a garlic press for that, and I put that in the pan along with the rest of the vegetables. So the vegetables, the prepared ones, are put in the skillet that I use for frying up the chicken in. So there's already like a bit of fat in there from the thighs that were fried in there. Those just basically cook for about 3 to 4 minutes on like medium high. And you can see I'm just stirring it around. I'm checking the recipe here. I always have my cookbook open while I'm doing this kind of stuff, so I can constantly recheck that I'm doing stuff right. I always have timers on. I always have certain reminders to get stuff because I forget that, right? Like I might have walnuts like roasting in the oven, and then I forget them for like half an hour, and then they burn. So I always have like a sticky note on somewhere that I can see it that reminds me of everything that's cooking and when it has to be out, along with other stuff. Like I may keep timers on my phone and stuff like that, where I'm always having these constant reminders of stuff I have to attend to within the kitchen so I don't get distracted, and so nothing gets over or undercooked because I basically ignored it for too long. You can see right here I'm writing down a reminder to tend to the veggies in about 4 minutes on a post-it note. And I just show right there, right? 5:17, that's about like 4 minutes in the future from when I'm filming this, just so I know when to take those things off. So at this point, while the vegetables are currently simmering, I'm just preparing a couple oranges for seasoning the chicken casserole, because like this thing is kind of like the dish's flavor is summer themed in a way. So there's citrus, there's thyme, there's tomato, like a whole bunch of fresh kind of summer-like vegetables in it. So this orange kind of adds some zest and some definitely some flavor to it. The recipe called for like actual like the bigger kind of oranges that you would get from like Florida, but we didn't have any of those, so I just used 2 or 3 of like the smaller clementines. So I just tried juicing them, but then I realized that it was probably more efficient just to peel them and then take like the flesh and then maybe put it in a food processor and then put the blended up pulp into, evenly distribute that into both of the casseroles, and then mince up the rinds as a zest, and then evenly distribute that into the 2 casseroles as well. That would probably be one of the things about this dish if I'm cooking with the same ingredients again, don't juice them, just put them in the food processor and basically just pulverize the pulp compared to what I'm doing right here. And then mince up the peels immediately after, and then add them as needed. So now the time's up for the vegetables, and what I'm doing here is evenly distributing what you see there into both of the casseroles evenly, because like I said, I'm making 2 batches of this. So everything I'm doing is doubled in terms of the quantity, and I have to split everything evenly between the 2 casseroles, one of which includes the skinless, boneless chicken breast, and the other of which includes the bone-in, skin-on ones, which I had to kind of separate from the drumsticks because the bone-in, skin-on ones came with like the whole leg. And the next thing you see me doing here is just juicing and peeling another one of those oranges, because I thought that since I was doubling the recipe, I might have to add more because it would probably need more flavor. But if I were to do this recipe again, I probably would only add like 2 clementines compared to the 3 that I did, because I think the orange taste at the end was a little bit overwhelming, but that's just my opinion. If you're making this yourself, you might want to just season it to taste, right? So what you see me doing here is basically grating the peel of the orange to get the zest out of it. If I was using like an actual big, firmer kind of orange, I think that this would have been a good idea, but I eventually found out that it was kind of useless because the peel of these clementines are just so soft. So what I probably should have done before is just like finely dice them, like mince them, and then just put them right into the pot to begin with, compared to try and just like obliterate them on the shredder, which the peels obviously weren't firm enough for. So what you see me doing here is, like I said, just dicing them up because it's a lot more efficient than trying to grate a super soft orange peel. I should probably mention what kind of knives I use within the kitchen. So what I have here in terms of my knife set for preparing food is I currently have a Western style chef's knife, like what I'm using right here. I use that for kind of finer tasks like dicing, mincing, that kind of stuff. Heavy work that requires a lot of precision and speed, right? You see I'm doing this rocking motion with it when I'm trying to cut the peels here. A Western style chef's knife with like the curved edge is very nice for this because, like I said, it has a curved edge, so it can kind of rock back and forth very fast and make quick work of mincing, dicing, that kind of stuff. For preparing the onions and doing slicing work, like I showed before, I like to use a 6-inch Santoku knife. So a Santoku knife is like a Japanese thing with a straight edge or a straight edge instead of a curved one, which allows you to make easier work of slicing stuff and kind of like bigger jobs where you're just trying to like cleave bigger parts off of like vegetables and meat and stuff. I also use a paring knife just for sampling. But how I sharpen my knives, I basically like to use a whetstone that requires water instead of oil, and just like a honing knife, like on the fly. So I like to hone my knives, I'd say, every time I use them, and I sharpen them about, I'd say, once every 2 weeks because I don't cook that often. If I was cooking like every single week, I would probably sharpen my knives probably once, twice a week, and I would definitely be honing them multiple times a day. So yeah, what you see me doing right here is just processing another orange because I thought it needed more of that, orangey kind of flavor. But like I said, sometimes there is too much orange, such as this case, right? I think 2 definitely would have been enough, but yeah, this kind of stuff does come down to personal preference. Now at this point, I'm also getting the the tomatoes ready to add to the sauce mixture that the thighs are sitting in. So I had the recipe called for 28 ounces of canned tomatoes, which I didn't have enough of because I was doubling it, right? So I kind of undershot how much tomatoes I would need. So I'm just dicing up a fresh one here to make out for the amount that I didn't have. If my Santoku knife was sharper, it would probably be a better call for this, but since it wasn't, I think the Western style one would be better for this job. I know I'm using a Santoku in the shot here, but unless your Santoku one is really sharp, I would recommend using the Western style chef's knife, even if you're doing like rough dicing like I'm doing here. And the last thing I'm doing in the shot is slicing the sun-dried tomatoes. I'll admit that all this prep work that I'm doing probably should have been done earlier, because all this time I could have just done this prep work like beforehand, as like the first or second thing I took care of as soon as I entered the kitchen, because at this point I was kind of making dinner on a tight time budget, because my family has to eat at a certain time. We're a busy family. People have to get places. So if I had done this prep work like first or second thing, I think that this would have gone a lot quicker, because even after I add all this stuff, sun-dried tomatoes, canned tomatoes, the orange peel, all of that, after I even add that to the casserole, it has to simmer for about like an hour before it's actually ready to eat. So yeah, that definitely did delay my family a bit, and it did push dinner back. It did push dinner back a lot, and we ate later than we would have hoped to. So next time I would definitely do this preparation work just like a little bit earlier, or like first thing. And now I just go ahead and add all of that to the 2 casseroles. And after that, it's basically ready to simmer. So that's the next step. So this is my work so far. This is what the 2 casseroles, the 2 pots look like after all of that prep work, after I've fried up the chicken thighs and I've done all of the slicing and dicing for the prep work. And now I'm just combining it all before I go ahead and simmer it. I tried holding the camera like my phone in one hand while I was filming myself doing it, but that didn't really seem to work. I didn't have anything to stabilize the pot, so I just set it down on the counter there, and you can kind of see me stirring it there. If that angle does work for you guys, then great. Please tell me in the comments. If it doesn't, also please tell me in the comments. I would love to get some tips on how to improve the quality of my videos and kind of give you guys the whole experience of what it actually looks like in terms of what I'm doing there. And at this point, I know it's a little hard to see, but I'm adding some olive oil. Now, we keep our olive oil in like this little like thing that you can like shake it, and the olive oil comes out. I think it's pretty convenient. It's pretty easy to measure stuff like that compared to like the big jug that we have. So yeah, that's pretty great. And from here on out, pretty much the biggest part of this process is just going to be just sitting around waiting for this stuff to start to boil. And then after it goes to a boil, then it's going to have to be reduced to a simmer, and then just be allowed to just kind of let the chicken stew in its own juices for about an hour before it's actually ready to serve. Essentially, to add a little bit of complexity to its flavor right before I serve it, I'm going to garnish it with some thyme and some olives. So now, after waiting for a while, I hope that you can see it, but the chicken is finally brought to a boil. So now it's time to reduce it to a simmer, and I'm just showing you what it looks like once it's brought to a boil. So we're just going to let that sit for about an hour now. So this footage comes from about half an hour later when I'm getting the noodles ready, because of course you got to serve this with some kind of carb in order to make it filling enough for a family of 6, right? That's what the chicken looks like after simmering for a while, and we got the noodles frying up. Some leftover noodles, I'm just frying them up. Here's just a panorama shot of my kitchen. This is what my setup basically looks like. First thing I want to show you obviously is my cutting board there. Now what I'm doing there is I did all my prep work there to begin with, the vegetables and the oranges and stuff. But right now in this frame I'm doing thyme, and that's going to go into the casserole later. Now this countertop right here to the left of the cutting board is where I keep all my ingredients before I, prep them and put them into whatever I'm cooking. It's basically my little storage. So once I set up my kitchen before I cook anything, I basically put my ingredients there that I'm going to use. And once I have to use them, I essentially just take them from where they're sitting on that counter instead of just having to search for them through all of the cupboards, which makes it nice and convenient. I don't have to go and search through the cupboards, for example, for the olives. I can just grab them from the counter there and just bust them open, so I know exactly where everything is right when I need it. So very convenient. It's definitely a pro tip to keep all of your ingredients on hand instead of just having to go on a whole hunt for them once you need them. Because I could have like eggs on the stove, and I gotta add I might have to add olive oil to them. And instead of having to search through all my cupboards for olive oil and go to the back of my pantry for it, I could just grab it from the counter where I put it beforehand while I was doing my prep work. So very, very convenient to just have all the ingredients that you may need in one place, just so you can grab them at your every whim, just for convenience. So right there, of course, is the sink. The actual nozzle is extendable, so if I'm making coffee or something, I can just pull out the nozzle, kind of like a hose, and then turn the actual tap on so that I can spray the water wherever I may need it. It's also very convenient to have 2 basins in your sink. For example, I might have one where I put dirty dishes that I used while I was cooking, and for the other, I just put vegetable cores and potato peels and just general garbage in there, so I don't have to waste any time trying to pull out, for example, the garbage and just peel potatoes into there. No, I can just peel them into the sink, so I don't have to waste any time or have any friction between my different tasks. Cooking is essentially trying to balance time with efficiency. So you don't want to spend too much time doing anything, because if you have something on the stove, for example, that stuff's gonna burn. If I'm frying eggs that are on the stove and I have to spend 5 minutes trying to peel potatoes on top of that, my eggs are probably going to burn. So it's very essential that you budget your time appropriately as a chef, and you know exactly how long everything is going to take, so that you can basically get a good result out of your cooking. Now, this right-hand counter is where I keep my instruction manual, so my cookbook basically for whatever I'm cooking, as well as my various tools for cooking. So can openers, vegetable peelers, sampling spoons, forks, knives, anything I might need to grab, like a spatula, for example. While I'm cooking various things, I like to keep my tools all there. Like I said, so I don't have to go digging around in my drawers and waste time when I'm cooking something. And I, for example, just need a wooden spoon because I have to do a certain task, like stir the sautéing onions or something, right? It's very convenient that you have all of your tools in one place, so you don't have to go you don't have to go searching for anything. And in this counter space right there, right beside the stovetop, is where I like to keep any ingredients and spices and tools that I have to have on hand for cooking stuff directly on the stovetop. So, for example, I might keep a spatula there if I'm cooking eggs, and salt and pepper too, just because I have to use them so frequently. And I might have to use them at like a moment's notice, so they're right there. And like I said, this entire setup is based on convenience, so I don't have to go searching for stuff, and so I don't have to waste my time or ruin the dish because I spent too long searching for a spatula and then my eggs burnt. And of course, there's the stovetop, which is key to a lot of the cooking I've been doing. It is 4 different elements, 2 of which are big, 2 of which are small. The big ones are at the front, so they're the closest when you're standing at the stove, and the smaller ones further back, they're basically like the back burners, right? I like to use the bigger ones typically when I'm making dishes like this, but the only problem is the larger burner on the left side, it only goes to maximum heat or it's off. So I can't really adjust the heat to like medium or low. It's always on high. For simmering dishes on medium low heat, I can only use the other 3, and I can't put anything on the lower left hand element. So that's a little bit annoying because I had to put like a big 10-inch diameter stock pot on like a 5-inch diameter little back burner, which, I mean, it's kind of inconvenient, but it did work at the end of the day. So maybe that's an equipment upgrade that I can make, buy a new stove or something. Now this is the final addition to the meal. We needed a little bit more carbs with it, so I took some leftover mashed potatoes out of the fridge. I mixed it with some milk, and I just fried it up in the skillet as kind of a side and kind of like an agent to soak up the broth with. So it went pretty nice with the casserole. And so this one here was the boneless, skinless thighs with the big stock pot that I was cooking them in. I added the thyme and the olives that you see there at like the very last minute, like the recipe said, just so it would add a little bit of bitterness and a little bit of flavor depth to the dish. And this right here is the bone-in, skin-on thighs of the Dutch oven, obviously. And lastly here we have the final result. Obviously, like I said before, this was the dinner that I made for my family, so there's the casserole, which is honestly kind of more of a stew with some mashed potato on the side. So yeah, I had like 6 servings of this. It was pretty good, but then again, I do fast all day, so it does make sense that I would eat a lot for dinner. But yeah, pretty good dish. Could have done with less orange and a little bit more prep time on my part. The broth, the chicken broth that I had to add to it during prep was I think it was a little bit too runny. It could have done with more stock and less water. So there's definitely that to improve on. But yeah, pretty solid dish overall. Very nice summertime kind of dish. Maybe a little bit early in the year for that kind of stuff because it's like April. So like early spring right now. Pretty good for all times of year. Very kind of like oily dish. Maybe a little bit greasy. But overall, I think if I were to give this a 10 out of 10 rating, I would give it maybe 7.5 out of 10. Final verdict. So yeah, if you enjoy this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. If you think that I can make improvement to the quality of this video in terms of how I record this stuff or the angle from which I'm recording or filming my cooking at, if you have any suggestions for like the lighting, or maybe there's like a certain stand that helps with shooting angles, because I'm just filming all this from my phone, let's be honest. Or if you think that the voiceover that I'm doing right now could be done better, just drop your recommendations in the comments. I'm definitely going to be doing more of these food vlogs in the future. I can guarantee you that. So stay tuned for those. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of those. Yeah, so comment if you think that I can make improvements to this. You can donate any amount of money via PayPal. I'll put a link in the description, and you can just drop some money there if you want to see me excel in this current fitness and Cuisinary, is that a word? Cuisinary journey that I'm on. And if you want to learn directly from me, you can go ahead and DM me on Instagram and ask about my coaching package. I can help educate you and help get you results in terms of fitness or dieting or cooking or any of that stuff. So go ahead and check that out. That's pretty much it. And I think I'll see you in the next video. Bye.